Hello, everybody. And everything looks okay. So we're going to do this. We're going to open this here. Hello. We got somebody here. Paul the cat saying hello to everybody. This is the hoodie that I put on the floor that he sleeps on. That's why it's full of cat hair. So, what do we have? Things all right. Paul the cat. So we're gonna start. Hey everybody, welcome to the live show. This is of course a show that is let's check something here. Kind of out of something about the setup that's weird. Wait, let me see something here. Okay, that's the thing. Let me check that. This is gonna be like that. That's gonna be better. Here we go. How about sleeping here, Paul? Huh? There we go. What the hell? And here we are. So, hey, everybody, welcome aboard. This is the live show. We weren't here last week. A lot of people are asking, where are you? Where are you? Where's the recorded show? Well, no recorded show. Wasn't here last week. I had to go to the hospital for all sorts of things. My friend is supposed to get out of the hospitals at the end of the month. So we're starting to look at how it's going to be done and how things are going to happen because even though it came back a little better, he's really not capable of, being on his own. So we're going to see what we're going to do with that. Anyways, welcome aboard, everyone. This is the Shortwave Radio Live Show. We're here usually Saturday at 20 hours UTC once a week. And we talk about radio and we have fun with radio. And we even have a new radio that is right here next to me on an MLA 30, the FTDX10, that we're going to talk about a little bit today. And tune around, hopefully. So this is a show where we talk about radio in general, where we just are having fun in, with radio and any kind of radio, really, but all sorts of mostly shortwave and medium wave and long wave for the most part. But we just are a bunch of great guys that enjoy the show. My name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we have a chat room where you can actually yes, Paul. We have a chat room where everybody can join in and have fun and share. And it's a great place with great people, very helpful people too. So if you are new to the hobby or you have been in the hobby for 50 years, everybody's welcome here. Everybody is the same and treated the same, whatever, however long you've been listening or not, and being a ham operator or not, or whatever. We also have a Facebook group. Once the chat room or the live show is over, of course, chat room stops, and we have a Facebook group where you can actually join, and it's the same name as the channel here, official SWL channel. And we just have fun there too, as we're sharing what we're listening to, Radio Shacks, radios, talk about radios, ask questions. It's another great place to be and have fun. Lots of people there too, or not that far from 3,000 members, which is pretty cool. So really nice to have all of you here, and it's always fun to be here. Matt in Colorado, MDK2, nice to have you here, putting up decorations for Halloween. Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming, nice to have you here from Morgan City, Louisiana, WA5107 SWL. We have Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. And we have David's Radio Room. Nice to be here. Nice to be here. Well, yeah, slow mo. It's a 10-second. I put 10 seconds delay, so just for the, in case we have the spammers, they can't post like every second. They'll have to wait 10 seconds. But it really is for the spam that we get on the channel. Archer's Autocrafter's Kitchen and Radio and Audio Lab. Nice to have you here. Picked up some FM stations on the car radio yesterday from Central New Hampshire, over 100 miles away. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. This is how we start. We do something that one day, and it's like, you know what? I've never explored that side of the hobby. I think I'm going to start doing it. And the same happened for me when I got that Florida station on FM. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Now FMDXing is something that I think about. It's really nice. We have Randall. Nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois. We have Kevin, WS2H. Nice to have you on board. Just like your new radio, I think I might try out the Yaesu FTDX10 after the holidays are all over. Fred Logan, nice to have you here. We have Chris G7VEO. Nice to have you on board. We have Mark W. Nice to have you here from Vancouver, British Columbia. Gary 24 fan. Nice to have you here from Fort Fairfield, Maine. Let's Talk Radio. The Rorax. Nice to have you on board. I was wondering how you got your long wire up the telephone pole. My wire is not up a telephone pole. The one that I have, which is my end-fed antenna, is simply I took a wooden broomstick and I clamped it to the fence. So it's like a sloper, actually, because it comes from the third floor to the fence down. But it's not on the telephone pole, because one of the problems of a telephone pole is that if you leave it there and they need to do work on the telephone wires, then, your wire's in the way. So it's like not a good idea. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you here. Chuck, nice to have you on board. And 5 KVO from the Sunny Hill Country, South Texas, currently 89. Let me just put the time. I like to have time next to the. We have Danny, Shortwave Radio DX. Nice to have you here. BLF Radio, bonjour et bienvenue depuis Lyon en France. C'est toujours un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you here from Virginia. Mowing the lawn while listening to the show. Cool. Jetcrafter, nice to have you on board. Says, changing my radios and desk setup around on a beautiful day in southern Maine. It's fun from time to time, kind of a refresh of moving things around and all of it. It kind of feels great once you do it. You feel like doing radio again. WFJ59, nice to have you here. And what else do we have? Keegan DXer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Steve 2E0WZL, nice to have you here. We have Simon Templar, nice to have you on board. Art, nice to have you here. K2ADC in New Jersey. We have, wow, my Paul the cat is meowing like crazy. Paul, you ain't see that. So what else do we have? Let me just go down. Metal Lunar, nice to have you here. We have DJW883, nice to have you on board from Southeast Pennsylvania. We have, thank you, Matt. Looks like my caregiving duties are going to be full-time still after, but, you know, I think the biggest problem that happened to my friend is that it took too long before he got operated. Cheers, vodka cranberry juice, the Saturday drink. Greg says, I go to Texan H51X medium and long wave FM stereo or shortwave SSB on Monday. Cool. Great radio. Pela Frazio, nice new radio. No problem, Matt. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Joseph, nice to have you here from San Francisco Bay, California. Danny, Shortwave, and Radio DX says, I've been looking at the ICOM IC 7300. I've heard the more I watch your videos, the more I'm leaning towards the Yaesu as my next transceiver. Tough decisions, yes. You know, they were pretty much the two. Paul, if the camera is moving, it's Paul. They're you know, both great transceivers, and they were pretty much they were the two that I was looking at, and you know, I've watched so many reviews and so many different people talking about it. Each have a good side and each have a bad side. You just got to try to see what you can do with that. Because honestly, they're both great radios, and you know they're not perfect. No radio is. But after looking at the reviews, looking at, you know, how well rated the Yaesu is and all of that, I lean towards, you know, the Yaesu as seemed to be a better choice. But you know, like I said, it's a tough decision. Both of them seem to be pretty good. Okay, wait a minute, guys. Just gonna do something here. I think Paul wants to get up here. Get that. Music. You know, but Paul the cat wants to. Yeah. And of course, now that you offer Paul the cat to get up here, he doesn't want anymore. Get that. It's usually something. I'll lower myself. Yeah. Get it. Oh, way to go. Cats. So, anyways, like I was saying, after looking at the radios and all, it's like, yeah, you know, the choice finally took the Yaesu, but I'm sure if you take the Icon, you got a great radio too. So this is a definite. Look at that. Look at that. You can see. He's almost there. Here we go. There we go. Paul is in the house. Here we go. So Mr. Paul the cat also wants to try out the Yaesu FTDX10. He can't resist. He can't resist. So So both are great anyways. So whatever choice you make, I'm sure you're gonna have a great transceiver anyway. Jeff King, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. Kevin Murray, nice to have you here from Windy, Wyoming, KK7HGD. Rick from Milwaukee, nice to have you here. Mita Lunar says, I saw your new radio contains an SDR. Since you have experience with different SDRs, how does a standalone SDR compare, in your opinion, to using a laptop with an SDR adapter? It's different because the advantage of a computer with an SDR is that you have a choice of software and there are all sorts of things that you can do. Where within a radio, you're in the confines of what the manufacturer decided to offer you as features. So for the pure, I want to, tune the bands with an SDR. I prefer an SDR in a computer. Um, and but for the fact that this transceiver has all of that as many different options, it is still pretty cool to have that, and it's cool to have an SDR and have a screen on that little radio. But I would definitely lean towards a standard SDR and computer much more. And I've listened to this a lot. I'll listen a lot more also and compare. But one thing is clear is that the Yaesu here is not going to give you pretty much signals you won't hear on a good SDR. So if you have an SDR Play or SPDX or AirSpy HF Plus Discovery, things like that, you will be hearing what you hear on the Yaesu. I can tell you that. I have no there's nothing that I can say that is, you get on one and you don't get on the other. I haven't had that yet. Albano, nice to have you here. CT5JEX from Portugal. Shortwave Radio Passion, nice to have you on board. And yes, I am enjoying my new radio, I can tell you that. Keegan DXer. What else do we have? We have Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you on board. Don and I were up in the crane yesterday to repair my log periodic. Ready to make a QSO with you soon. Oh, cool. That will be great. That will be great. We'll have to arrange that. David, nice to have you here. David P. Miller, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. René Charbonnier, nice to have you on board from the Netherlands. Michael, nice to have you here. ON8EI, nice to have you here, John. Greg got the H501, and I hope you're happy with it. It's a great radio. What else do we have? Richard, nice to have you on board. WA2157SWL in Albany, New York. And it's nice to be back. David's Radio Room. Phyllis? Hey, Phyllis. Nice to have you here. And cool to have your wife listening in. Spacebar. Glad you're enjoying Yaesu FTDX10. Are you planning to buy the external speaker? Not really. I find the external speakers of these radios too expensive for what they are. I'll rather get a good speaker that will cost me less, but be very good. Here we go. But I do not plan to buy. I'm not a guy that buys these. I'm just gonna put my chair up. There we go. Okay, I'm not the kind of guy that buys the matching speaker that comes with these radios in general. There was one for the ICOM, there was one for the Kenwood R5000, and instead I used that good old speaker that I purchased at Radio Shack way back then and had fantastic results with that. So I'll have an external speaker, that's for sure, because even though the internal speaker is not bad, definitely you need something external that's better for sure. Neil, nice to have you here from the UK. Doug Smith, nice to have you here from Virginia Beach. Says got the same Yaesu FTDX10. It's great. What else do we have? I'm just going to signal. Okay. What else do we have? Just going to try to catch up. So we're going to talk about that radio. TVDXer, salut. Ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Francis Moore, nice to have you on board. PB Wizard 2007 says, I'm very new to the radio hobby, having recently purchased an SDR radio dongle for my laptop. I've learned a lot from watching the videos on this channel. Thank you. Thank you. That's the reason of this channel, is to help everybody. Really is here for that. Yeah, Paul wanted on the live stream. What else do we have? Let me just go down here. RJDA Dakota, unfortunately sent out to do shopping. You're on my phone. Joseph, does anyone recommend a Uniden Bearcat BC125AT handheld scanner as an affordable scanner radio? I don't remember. I remember seeing that model, but I don't remember what it is exactly. Maurizio, nice to have you here from Italy. Keegan says, my dad, W9JEF, has an ICOM IC706 since 1996, and he's 7300 since 2019. ON8EI, John, I use the Hermes Light 2 SDR radio for my shortwave, medium wave, long wave listening. And he has a cat called Skippy. Cool. Don Royal, WA7330 SWL, nice to have you here. Joanne Dombrell, nice to have you on board. Where is Paul's girlfriend? She was here. She was here about 20 minutes ago. She came in, she ate, and she got back outside. Oh yeah, I've been hamming it up. I can tell you that, TVDXer. Simon Templar, when you get a chance, check the email. Let me check that out here. Here's the picture from our friend Simon Templar with the radios that we could see here. So he's got the famous FTDX10 right there. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. So TVDX or no ICOM? Well, you know, I'll mention one of the reasons I also wanted to go Yaesu. I have an ICOM ICR8500. I know some of you have the 8600, which seems to be a really good receiver. I like the ICOM, but I was never really thrilled by the ICOM radio. Although it's an older standard, good old standard superhead radio. It made me think that maybe I wanted to try some other brand. A lot of people like Yaesu, and also reminded me a little bit of my sister was a ham, and my sister had a Yaesu transceiver back in the 80s. And of course, because of the good notes of that FTDX10, all of that together, it's like, let's go to the Yaesu route. Let's try that. Casper Peterson, nice to have you on board, Casper. Greg says my Yaesu FTDX10 ham transceiver is cool. Yeah, he is very healthy and shiny. Absolutely, he's very he's great. And of course, he does still have his girlfriend. Absolutely. I think one picture I can show you guys is from yesterday or the day before. Just gonna show you guys this. It's pretty cute. Trying to find it. So that's both of them. Both of them in the bedroom. She's preparing herself to go to sleep, and Paul is actually sleeping. And the other one that I have here is that's her. That's her sleeping on the couch in the living room. Pretty cute cat too, I can tell you that. So they get along okay. Paul has a little bit of character sometimes, and he smacks her, but most of the time they go along. Actually, she cleans Paul's fur from time to time. It's just so funny to watch. Um, Keegan DXer, considering an SDR to use on my computer to record FMDX for times when I'm away from home or overnight when I should be asleep. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. PLF Radio, are you happy with the transmission part of your new radio? This is probably where I'm the most happy with the transceiver. The the transmit seems to be so much better, um, than the Yaesu FT450. And actually, while calling CQ, I listened to myself on an SDR, and my voice sounds so much better, richer, full of the frequencies that you need for human voice, where the other one sounded kind of a little boxed and a little weird. Also, the transmission part of this radio, what I like is that the it seems to pump up a lot more power out in the antenna. It seems like the antenna tuner in the radio is definitely doing a better job than the FT450 at matching my antenna and all bands. And I'm actually, my signals are strong everywhere. I'm getting yesterday, the day before, when I was doing some hand contacts. I mean, the guy in Cyprus gave me 5.9 plus. I mean, I'm just using 100 watts and a end-fed antenna, and I was making it in the pileup with big gun stations that have a kilowatt of power. So man, it's just great. That transmission side of this radio seems to be superb compared to the FT450 I had. So that would be the side where I would probably tell you guys, if you're looking for a good transmitter and a transceiver, the FTDX10 is superb and works great. And the antenna tuner, it's a little slower than on the FT450, although it depends on the band. So I think the antenna tuner works harder on certain bands with the antenna and takes longer to actually find where to tune. But it's just great. I mean, it's just great. Um, what else do we have? What else do we have? Richard Wagner. Wow. Hope that things get better, my friend. It ain't fun. Nothing like radio to keep your mind off all of this. Spacebar says uses the BHI desktop speaker with my Yaesu radios. Works absolutely amazing. Glenn from Ohio, nice to have you here. Simon Templar, I use a retired center speaker from my previous Sony home theater system as the external speaker for my FTDX10 and one for the IC7300. Al, nice to have you on board. I know how difficult being caregiver can be. I'm a full-time caregiver for my mother. Hang in there, my friend. It is a big job. Nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Dan, nice to have you on board. And 8WJZ. WF79, there are videos showing how to way to integrate SDR play with with ham radio so that you can enjoy both at the same time. Have you looked into that yet? I haven't looked much into anything for the simple reason that I've been just enjoying using it. And using it at the same time, you're learning how to, do the different things with it. And I just made a lot of contacts. I actually added 6 new countries, and I probably made since I got it, I think I made 25 contacts or something like that. It's like, I've been playing a lot with it. I've been listening also. And I'm gonna talk to you about something interesting because obviously now I've been comparing the the end fed antenna, sorry, which is a wire in the backyard, with my MLA30 on other radios. And we're going to talk about that too, because I've made some observations, interesting observations. Andy New, nice to have you here from the UK, M7CUN. Ricky Leong, nice to have you on board. Bonjour. Mountain Meddling, nice to have you on board from Pennsylvania. And I61, nice to have you here from Colorado. What else do we have? Ricky says your new rig looks absolutely slick. Mike, nice to have you here from Florida. Welcome aboard, Mr. Squirrel. Nice to have you here from state New York. Dan says 10 meter FM 29600 open here in Ohio. What else do we have? What else do we have? WF, so yeah, they're cute pictures of cats, Keegan DXer, David DXer. WF, so Niombro, been using PC gamer surround system speaker for a while. Now on Shortwave, the bass really improves the listening experience for me. Sound is like a large console cabinet. Mark Schmidt from Maine, nice to have you here. 45 unit, nice to have you here from Connecticut. I am enjoying my new radio, I can tell you that. I am really enjoying it. Keegan the Xer says she looks like my cat Mitzi, black and white. Kevin says, "Hey Joel, your telethon for WRMI must have worked. 15770 is on air now." Yeah, and they also have a GoFundMe. Somebody put the link. Also, if you look in the comments, there's a GoFundMe also that they have done for paying for the repairs of the transmitter. How does Autocrafter's Kitchen? Does your new radio use any digital processing in the transmission? If so, that may account for the improved modulation. Yes, there is. It's an hybrid, so it's an hybrid on both sides. So there is some processing. Absolutely. Tarek, nice to have you here from Cairo, Egypt. Jean-François Trudel de Saint-Hubert, nice to have you on board. What are your thoughts about energy crisis situation in Europe, station shortwave situation? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in the International Radio Report, because what's happening is, for those that don't know, there's a station that is shutting down its long wave transmissions. Um, so if you want to get, man, I forgot the station. That's good. It's man. Let me just get it here. If I can find it. I don't find it. Man, I forgot the station that's leaving. It's It's RTL. Luxembourg. I don't know why I got a blackout with that. So RTL Luxembourg is leaving Longwave. Um, and it seems one of the things that made that decision go faster is that the energy crisis and transmitters, especially on long wave with the power to use, using so much electricity. So they're removing themselves from long wave. And there are rumors, but it's not clear. Nobody has an official information from that. But there's speculation going on that Moosbrunn, Austria transmitter site would close at the end of this year, December 31st. Which means I would guess that Radio Austria, what's left of Radio Austria in German on 6155, would probably be gone from shortwave now. But I've been looking at the relays using the Moosbrunn transmitter site, and I mean, there's a lot of relays from there. So I don't know, but no one has an official statement. It seems to be just somebody just blurted out, oh, the transmitter site in Austria is going to shut down, and people are kind of going back and forth with this. But there's no official yes, it is or it isn't. So we'll see. Roger Schultz, yep, having a lot of fun with I'm Radio, absolutely. Carlos, nice to have you on board from Poland. Um, we have, yep, WRMI is back on 15770. Philip, nice to have you here. G0PVK, nice to have you here, Phil. Yeah, you know what, Masters Players Radio and Television, we're gonna think about that now that I have a better transceiver. Maybe it could be an idea to try it. Definitely. TB Ostrowski, nice to have you on board. And Medicine Hat. Just gonna check it out here. Kamikaze 76, nice to have you here from cold West Michigan. We have Danielson. Got both a Yaesu 857 and 817 and Icom 706 and 7000. But I find the Icoms have a more friendly user interface menu system. That was probably the main comments when I was reading reviews of the friendliness of the 7300. There are things that annoy me on this button, on this millions of buttons around the tuning knob. I've been annoyed at a few things with that. And we're going to talk about what annoys me on this radio and what I like. Rich, nice to have you here from Florida. Bob, nice to have you here. WA2SQQ from Florida today. Cool. Kilo 6109. Enjoy your channel. I bought a Texan PL 990 after watching your reviews. Looking to get into ham radio in due course. Cool. Do join. Ricky says listening conditions have been interesting today in Calgary. Was able to get a hint of VOA, RFI, and REE this morning on 16 meters. So when it's usually quiet. So yep, RTL. That's what I was. I had a blank. Rich, R is the 12K filter on AM stations. Can you adjust to something more narrow? Yeah, that's the big problem of the radio listening side of the Yaesu. On AM for international broadcasting, you're stuck with 12 kilohertz. You cannot change that. There's an audio filter, but there's no that 12 kilohertz filter is what you got. The only thing I find that a little dumb on Yaesu's part to not give us the possibility to change it. But it's, unless the band is very crowded with close by stations, it's still been working quite well, but it's a little wide. Sheila, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario. So, yep, Roger, enjoying my amateur radio. I can tell you that. Edward, nice to have you on board from Ireland. No, I've not managed to transmit on PSK31. I'm not yet there, but I will soon be there, and there's some digital modes for sure. Tarek says here in the Arab world, we were shocked with the decision of switching BBC Arabic to digital transmissions only, not on medium wave, shortwave soon. That is, that the cuts that the BBC are making are purely monetary and are idiot. For me, it's an idiot decision. Even the Chinese transmissions. I mean, the Great Firewall of China blocks everything BBC. What is a digital first online radio useful when it doesn't even go into the country that you're transmitting in their language? I don't know. Somebody somewhere, you know, I heard the head of the BBC being interviewed on the BBC's NewsHour. She was saying that they had to do cuts. It is for the BBC World Service survival. They have no choice. That the lack of money that's coming ahead is really really a big problem. And what it looks like is they are facing a cash crisis, no money, and they have to cut somewhere, and that's what they decided to do. But it's definitely a dumb decision, especially on many of the languages, also where the transmissions are going to countries where the internet penetration isn't that great. So, what you're going to see is that a lot of people that had access in their own native language to BBC World Service transmissions won't have that anymore. I don't know, but it's a bad decision. I actually joked that with those cuts, the BBC World Service always prouds itself in mentioning that they are the world's radio station. Well, I'm sorry, you're not anymore. Carlos, can you talk about what the Radio Moscow Voice of Russia used to be like in the old times? Yeah, definitely. It's I got great memories of Voice of Radio Moscow. Radio Moscow is great. Listen, they have some great programs. I mean, there's that there was that rhetoric side, that side of a lot of propaganda, but they had great programs, and it's you. I would say that the transmissions were more into a whole situation. Listening to Radio Moscow in times of Cold War, which were kind of weird. It was what that weird moment, that weird time in history. Voice of Russia, when it changed to Voice of Russia, it became a lot more relaxed in what it was doing, except that by the end, the last few years, it was becoming more of a propaganda machine again than the first few years when it actually was a really kind of relaxed. But have to be there. There's a lot of Radio Moscow recordings on YouTube. Check them out. You're going to have the feel of what it was all about. Adesh Minar Rackhamson, nice to have you on board. Richard Wagner, would any of the portables be better than my Drake R8, or should I just get it repaired? If you can get it repaired at a decent price, a modern portable is not going to beat your Drake R8. That definitely not. It will be almost as good in many respects, but it won't be the Drake R8. That's for sure. It would not be better than a Drake. And if you like a big desktop when listening, if you can get it repaired, I think it would be you have a great radio there. What else do we have? Roger Schultz, ICOM IC7610, IC9700, Yaesu FTDX10 MP, and ICOM IC52A. Christian Marcoux, salut, j'espère que ça va bien depuis North Bay en Ontario. What else do we have? Spacebar, that would have been an interesting listen during the West Germany GDR days. Yep, Radio Berlin International. Absolutely. Papa Krampus, the sovereign grant, which funds the monarchy's households' official expenses for 2022, showed that they cost the taxpayer £102.4 million during 2021-22, an increase of 17% from previous financial year. There's your restored funding for the BBC World Service. Yeah. I'll a question I'm curious about that I want to ask is, being outside is not the same. I've never been a monarchy guy. I'm not the kind of guy that really likes things like kings and queens, but Elizabeth II was a unique person of our time and of history. Any of you guys in the UK, if you want to answer, just out of curiosity, will the monarchy still a monarchy? Monarchy? I'm trying to remember the pronunciation, but will it be for you guys as exciting, we're gonna call it like that, with Charles III than it was with Elizabeth? Because I have the impression that we're going into a new direction now that's like, nah, I'm not sure anymore. Just out of curiosity, if you guys want to answer. Keegan DX, recently I posted a new shortwave video on YouTube for the first time in over a year and a half, Radio New Zealand 15720 from October 9th at 0503 with strong signal. Cool. Kevin, is there a piece of technology you own that still thrills you as much as the day you first purchased it? Good question. It would have to be, personally, I think it would have to be my Commodore computer and my Amiga, because I get the same coolness and feelness of using the Commodore computer as back in 1985. Which, for the rest, what else would I have from in technology? That's a good question. I think we all get a little, how could say it, bored with our technology over time. So having something that I got back then and that still thrills me the same today, I don't know. I still have a lot of fun with a lot of the technology that I like, the old scanner radios and stuff like that. But I would say probably what is the closest to still thrilling me today, the Commodore 128 and the Amiga 500 computers. Jean-François Tudel, did you try C4FM mode on HF? I haven't tried any mode except just doing some voice contacts. Honestly, I'll be there though. When I calm down of just making contacts on the voice, I'm gonna start plugging everything up to have everything for digital stuff. Yep. Yeah, but that TV license revenue is going to go down in the future. The part that goes to the BBC is going to go down in the future years. Oli says, "Is the chip shortage still bad for ham radio hardware?" The chip shortage is not as bad as it used to be. I think slowly it's starting to get better now. It's starting to get better. I know that when I look at radios availabilities and transceivers, they seem to be pretty much all in stock. So I guess it is. It's with a K sound, monarchy, because in French is monarchie. That's why I mix it up. My refrigerator is more exciting than Charlie. Yeah, I'm pretty much in that thing too. Um, Danny Shortwave Radio DX for me, it will be my Commodore 64. Yeah, I think that's something that is the closest that what thrills us still is those old things like that. Carlos, have you ever heard about the glorious Brazilian Transglobe Ford Filco receiver back in the 70s? I've seen a lot of those things. I can't say that specific, but definitely I've seen a lot of those things over time. Alembic 65, first time in about 6 months. And what else do we have? Also cutting out the started streaming info, so don't know how long the stream started. It's 20 hours UTC. It's been now on for 52 minutes. High 61 played Ghostbusters on Commodore 64. Hey, I played that just a week or two ago. Vivian Lund says, Vivian says, I wish I still had my Amiga 500. Yeah. Spider Moose watched a few of your vids this week and a few minutes ago about the Texan 9012 on your recommendation, first radio. It's decent. It's not expensive. And, I think you'll have fun. Fred Waterer, nice to have you on board, my friend. What else do we have? Spacebar, honest answer. We just don't know really. It's strange not giving Queen Elizabeth II still. Suppose Prince William will help the monarchy fit the time period we are in, and it will change, but how it rules won't. Yeah. Ricardo, nice to have you on board from Portugal. There's Radio Boom. This is David's wife, Phyllis. I am from England. Yes, the king will be different, but I think he will be great. If he does what the media claims he will do, we shall wait and see. Okay. Just out of curiosity. Because here, I'm especially here in Quebec, being on the Francophone side, monarchy is something we don't care much about. It's not like that everywhere in Canada, though. There are parts of Canada that kind of like that. But I have the feel of that change is so huge from Queen Elizabeth II that it's maybe not going to be as exciting anymore for people that like that or follow that. Mike Jam, nice to have you here. Fred Waterer loved is Apple II 64K of raw computing power. That was power. Artist out of Crafter's Kitchen, Queen Elizabeth II's Christmas morning broadcast on the BBC will be missed. She delivered those brilliantly. regardless of how anyone feels about the monarchy. Yeah, definitely. Kamikaze76, Gilles, you speak English better than most of us native English speakers. Paul, nice to have you on board. Sheila, I'm so old that my first computer was a VIC-20. My first was a VIC-20. It's just I don't have it anymore. I don't have it anymore. I actually, when I got my Commodore computer, my Commodore 128, it replaced my VIC-20, and I gave my VIC-20 to my niece, which was, she was like 12 years old at the time, something like that, 11 or 12. Because every time she would come over, she would be so excited that we play on the computer. And so when I got a Commodore 128 as a Christmas gift, my niece, as a Christmas gift, got the VIC-20. Garrett Brennan says, got my first shortwave radio recently thanks to your top 10 videos. See you on R108. Great little radio. FM and air, great. Got some distant AM stations. Any suggestions on the shortwave stations fading? Well, fading is normal. It's part of shortwave. Shortwave signals fade because they come from long distance, and the changing ionosphere that is constant makes the signals fade in and out. It's a normal, but you can improve that by using an external antenna on it if you want. That could improve the fading. Keegan, I have an Apple iPhone 10s Max. I used to record the radio videos. It works great, honestly. Keegan DXer, using your phone. I use my new Galaxy S22 Ultra for that. It just works great. I mean, you don't even need a camera anymore. Mine WX50, first computer, Sony Vaio desktop, 3 gigabyte hard drive. Greg, my Yaesu FTDX10 with taxes and shipping came out for me to $2,450 Canadian, which is roughly $1,800 or $1,900 US. Carl Icon, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Spacebar. It's going to take some time to adjust to having a king. I think the Commonwealth may change, but it will move with the times. Ricky says, my Nintendo NES, but only have a few cartridges, and the only one that works is Dragon Warrior. Richard Wagner, Apple IIc. Random signals. Nice to be here. It's a cold day in Sudbury, Ontario. How's the FTDX10, and how can you compare the receive from that and the RSP1A and DX? Let me just go down to chat room. I'm really close to the bottom, and we're going to actually focus a little bit on the FTDX10. We're going to talk about it. So we're going to go there in a few minutes. I-61 listening to shortwave right now. During the day, signal's real mess due to having no run in its gaggle of antennas, but I can get some interesting stations also. What else do we have? Wow, ZX Spectrum. Isn't there a wacky Queen of Canada now? I'm trying to see what it could refer to. Jay Gilbert from Melbourne. Nice to have you here. My favorite bit of tech that still excites me, Greenwich Satellite 6001 transistor. Yeah, I gotta say that it's kind of nice. I got the one, I got it here also in the back. It is exciting to use. I gotta say, an old radio. What else do we have? Carl Icon, RY test signal from the German weather FSK on 11039 kilohertz. Richard Edge, VE7RXE, nice to have you on board. Danielson says here in Melbourne, we had the ICOM 705 on order for about 3 months now, probably due to the chip shortage, and still no signs of EDA. Wow. Okay. Let me just go down. Carlos, when it comes to the Commonwealth, do you have tips on how to follow South Georgia, the Falklands, or St. Helena, South Atlantic? You mean radio wise? Actually there was a lot of on the clusters on the ham bands. There was Falkland Island station all week, and there was a couple of St. Helena, but they were in FT8. Raymond Martin did Cubble in 1972. Wow. Card readers. Oh, man. Mark Lane. I don't rate the BBC anymore. Not as impartial as they used to be. Yeah, it's still not bad. I mean, there's worse than that. I can tell you that. Nathaniel, need your professional opinion. Which would you recommend purchasing? A Texan PL 990, H501, or Eton Elite? Forget the Eton Elite totally. And I'll add a choice here that you can save money. So you can have the Texan H501 or PL 990. Both are great. H501 is nice for the stereo speakers on FM. But you can save money and take a 880, which is as good. Roger Schultz, ICOM discontinued the R30. I'm glad I've got one. I got an ICOM R30 communications receiver. What else do we have? Let's try to catch up here. But yeah, yeah, that's well, you can get because the Texan like the PL 660, 680 have airband, but the higher end don't. Edward, sad to learn that RTL is leaving Longwave. Was just reading the cut will save 6,000 megawatt hour per year. Anyone know how much money that works out to? I don't know, but it's probably a lot of money, and it's mostly probably, and the prices of energy will go up a lot. We take this for granted here in Quebec. When I hear everybody talk about the electricity cost here in Quebec, it's like the it's so cheap. You know, I and probably like a lot of people in Quebec, I don't take care of the electricity. I turn on everything, and I might leave for 2 hours and everything's still on and the lights are still on, and it's like which is it's a waste, technically a waste of electricity and everything. But the the thing is, it's so inexpensive when I hear other people talk about their bills for electricity. And I mean, and I'm actually, this apartment here isn't particularly well isolated. So in the winter, the heating is working almost, especially when it's minus 20. The electric heating is like working 24 hours almost. And and it I my electricity bill, actually they just renewed my yearly amount that I pay. It's $109 per month. It's kind of, when I start hearing about other people, that's where I notice is like, wow, this is really inexpensive compared to so many people around the world. A friend of mine went to Paris, and he went to some friend's house, and they're telling him, when you leave the room, close the lights. And he says, I'm not used to that. We don't do that in Quebec because it's just like, yeah, who cares? The light's on. Yeah, that's it. It's when you start realizing how others are paying for their electricity. And in Europe, that's going to happen with the Russian gas being cut and everything. And a lot of electricity is generated with that. What's going to happen is that a lot of, the bills are going to go up real high. What else do we have? Yeah, VP8LP is the guy in the Falklands in the pileup. I heard it, I never hear him well enough. I heard it. I tried 3 days with the Yaesu, and he was not strong enough to do a contact. Others on the Crafter's Kitchen. Didn't United Nations once run a shortwave? Wouldn't it make sense for them to make a comeback in light of the Ukraine situation? Yep, there was United Nations Radio. It was a shortwave station, absolutely. Um, I think they were still. We need to check. Let me just check something. They ran through relays for a while. United Nations Radio. United. Yeah, it's not there anymore. UN. Because they ran on relays, but yeah, the United Nations Radio was very just general news and programming on what the United Nations was doing. Would it be useful for them to make a comeback? I think it would be more useful for the big broadcasters from different countries to actually target rather than having, because the United Nations Radio was never a really big thing. And I remember hearing them in the 80s and 90s. Would it be useful to have a comeback? Not sure. I think a lot of other broadcasters do a great job with that. Pepper Krampus, Sanjian 909X2, 909X for airband. Yeah, 909X2. Just make sure you don't have a lot of FM stations around you, because mine is useless with the overload coming from the FM stations. Yeah, Falkland Islands Radio. Just a question. External antenna. If I make my own, does the wire have to be closed loop with ring loop back to the tip jack, and can it be one wire direct to the tip only? It could be a wire to the tip only. It's going to work, or even just clip to the telescopic. But it depends on the noise you've got around you. Really, all of that will depend on the noise you have around you. If you have a lot of noise, it'll be better to have a wire outdoors to the center connector and have a little shielded cable go into the radio to avoid the noise that's around you. Sorry, guys. Yeah, 990 is less expensive. It's and it's as good as the H501. H501 has, it's mostly the luxury of having stereo speakers and things like that. And even the 880. Often when people tell me I got an 880, should I get a 990 or an H501? It's like, no, you got a great radio. No, don't, unless you wanted, don't waste your money buying another one. Danny Shortwave Radio DX can't wait to see you do FT8 with your new rig. Started doing FT8 when my Yaesu FT818 using a DJ rig on 10 meters. Kevin, do you think Alex Jones will ever wise up? I heard him ranting about the judgment against him as a travesty of justice. That's what it is. That's what he is. He's a big mouth guy. He's a big mouth guy, and he's always going to push the limits. That's what he does. 965 million judgment against him. he actually can pay that. Because what I've heard is that he racks dozens of millions of dollars a week with all his vitamins, supplements, and all of his, um, his trash for survival and all of that. Apparently, the amount of money that he racks in with that is huge. And when they did that judgment, they probably did it in a way that, well, that's what we think you have as, the capacity of paying. But he's going to fight it, and he's a big mountain. I mean, the day the judgment was there, he was live. When they actually put that judgment out, he was live ranting at what they were saying. That's the way that he is. Now, where it's interesting is that there's voices that actually are raising up, and many of them are actually telling WWCR, how can you live with yourself having Alex Jones on the air after all of this? And apparently, there's some pressure on WWCR to drop Alex Jones. But money talks, and probably pays good money for being on the transmitters of WWCR. We're going to see what happens next. Uh, David White, you have hydropower up there? Yep, hydropower. Spacebar says power shortages in Europe and potentially the UK is a huge concern for us. Yeah, been hearing a lot of that. Well, it's cheap because we already, it's not even cheap because of the Churchers Falls deal. Um, it's cheap because it's just cheap the way we had so many of the hydro stuff done in the 60s up north in the James Bay and all of that. Church's Falls is a peanut in the ocean of all the electricity we've got in Quebec. Anybody that, because I hear that all the time, it's like, well, you guys got a great deal with, we already have so much electricity. Well, got to be careful because in the next 5 or 10 years, there'll be demand, and we have to create new ways of making electricity. But um, that deal doesn't change that much what it costs me on my bill every month. You know, I know that that Newfoundland Labrador is like going crazy with, being it's saying it's unfair and so on. Hey, it was the deal was done. Deal is done. That's the way it is. If you're, if you make a deal, you got to sit down and think about it before you sign papers. So, Carlos, if you could rate as an English native dude, what are the best English service stations in the global South? Um, Not sure I get the question. I mean, since all shortwave stations can broadcast to any part of the world, so I don't know. Because I'm not an English native. I'm French. My first language learned is French. Raymond Martin, I guess Quebec Hydro is great. Please send some to New Hampshire. Well, there's that deal where we're trying to get some lines to a couple of U.S. states. I think Massachusetts and New Hampshire are in there. But we're getting turned down. There's all sorts of battles going up in the different states where the lines are going to go through. So it's like not going anywhere right now. Garrett says about 2 million euros, I would guess. Yeah, I don't know how much that costs because, when you use a lot of electricity, one of the things, um, one of the things is they probably get a good deal on electricity because they use a lot of it, but still, well, it's probably pretty expensive. Oh yeah, in the U.S., there's a lot of things out there. You know, when I was looking at was what some of the bills that came out in Texas and so on when it was cold, it's like, come on, it doesn't cost that much. Matt, having a flat rate for electricity rather than paying for what you use is definitely unusual. We have big. Well, actually, we pay for what we use. My amount every my amount every month is based on my usage of electricity. So if I shut down everything in the house instead of leaving everything on, and if I shut down, in the computers and all of that is running, I definitely would, my bill would go lower. Here they're actually trying to have us go into a new system. They want us to have a rate that is different depending on the time of day, and they're trying to push us to go there. I actually got a email from the Hydro Quebec telling me, "Hey, if you want to try it, you can sign up for that now. You can so if you use electricity during peak hours, it costs you more, and if you use it at off hours, well, it costs you less. So you do all the heavy work, the heavy electricity consumption during the day, for example, and you try to lower your consumption in the evening, for example." Billy No Mains, $593 a month. It's crazy, eh? That's where I noticed it's like, whoa, okay, this is pretty cool. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, we pay around 600 to 1,000 total electric and gas a month during winter months. Crazy, eh? The difference in in price. Crazy. What else do we have? Jim's radio check. If we didn't have so many radios going on, one of the things that probably is a high consumption of electricity here is I, since I do your YouTube videos, including the videos for tech, the tech channel, my computer, one, two, three. I'm running 3 to 4 computers all day long here, plus the lighting that I need if I need lighting, and often my TV's on in the living room, and I just don't care, stuff like that. It's crazy here. Um, well, you have radio, Ukrainian radio on relay on WRMI. So High 61 says turns on the squelch, listening to airband sounds good. Um, Richard Edge V7RXE. Electric bill is 166 per month here in BC. And one of the things that is also that we need to compare is like, your 166, my 109. How much electricity actually are we using for that amount every month? Kind of dose it down to what's the actual fee for every kilowatt hour or whatever we're using. Billy Nomates, how come you Canadians have cheap electric? Well, it's not cheap everywhere in Canada. There are places that are much more expensive than others. But here, I think here in Quebec, particularly, it has to do with the fact that somebody had a good timing and good vision that we needed to make hydroelectric power something huge. So they started the construction of all the dams, in the 60s. So what happens is that in the 60s, it didn't cost as much as today to build the dam and to do all of that. And over the years, of course, these dams have been paid back and everything. So it ends up that our hydroelectricity isn't very expensive. Plus the fact that Hydro Quebec is state owned. It's not a private company. So there's a grasp on that. And it was actually, now they kind of removed that control. But here we had a energy commission. The energy commission could dictate how much of a raise of electricity every year. So when Hydro Quebec would come, they would say, "Oh, we need to increase prices by 8%." The commission would look at the what it costs Hydro Quebec to, give us our power, and would say, "So we've looked at your costs, and all we're going to give you is 2%." And they would have to abide by that rule because the commission's rule was official. That's the price, and that's it. There were years they even told Hydro Quebec, no raise in electricity this year. Your costs are not changing. So why should people pay more? So that was a great system, actually, because it kept the energy price down all the time. The government we have now has changed rules. He has decided electricity will go up with inflation. Now we're getting screwed with the inflation we're getting right now because that means next year and the year after, they're going to give us a 7, 8, 9% raise in electricity bill, which we never had before. So there's a lot of things going on. But even if we would have 7% or 8% raise every year, we still have the cheapest electricity around. It's crazy. What else do we have? Mad Max can't stand Alex Jones, her brother under the stairs. But remember, guys, you got to buy that MLA30. It sucks the airwaves. That's my Alex Jones. Blind Picker. Nice to have you here, Rob. W0RAB. Garrett says, was surprised how signal noise varies, by the way, day and evening. Receiving them on the RO8 or built-in antenna. Yeah, there are differences in the signal level, and also there's a lot of the solar activity playing something here. Olympic65 says, never would have even heard of that Alex Jones person apart from news coverage of the trial. Never met anybody that listens to this radio. And the only reason I know Alex Jones is simply because I listen to Shortwave, because I would not have known who that guy is without that. DB Ostrowski Manic 5 is impressive. Oh, yeah. When they built the La Grande 1, 2, 3 complex in the 60s for electricity here in Quebec, we made tons of world firsts. Never before had such a huge river been controlled for electricity anywhere in the world. Never before all the electric dam, all the The turbines, everything that creates the generators, everything is underground. A huge underground complex up north for the electricity here. That also was the first time ever it had been done. How do you do this? How do you create such a huge complex underground to master all that electricity up there? And the craziness of all is thinking that, you know, the power that I have here to do this live show comes from up north, 1,000 kilometers away, because all of the dams, most of the dams, the big dams, are all very far up north here. But they have one little problem. They are so close to the Arctic Circle that solar, if there is a major solar storm at some point, we could be in trouble because our system, being where it is, and having us such long transmission lines, is more susceptible to having breakouts. Like we had the solar storm of 1989 that put us in the dark for like 12 hours. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it's crazy. These judgments. It's not like here in Canada. Here in Canada, it's like, um, you know, he would have, they would have gotten $500,000, and that's gonna be that. That would have been it. It's so different for you guys in the U.S. Fred Waters says, "Wait, Joe, you're French? What? Sometimes your English better than mine." Yeah, well, I'm French Canadian, so it's my first language learned is French. Okay, let's go down here. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because of the way my electricity spending goes, I don't think I would be it would be good for me to get on board such a system. And that's also what I think. I'm better off with the actual system right now, because the system I have right now that I'm on is the first, there's a first chunk of electricity that is like sold at a really ridiculously low price. And if you go over that first chunk, then the price is right. They rise the price to a second, a more higher price. It's kind of, if you don't go overboard that chunk, you're always on the low rate. If you go higher, then you pay more. That's what I am right now. So I don't know. But they do want to have the peak hours thing. They're pushing it a lot. They're trying to have everybody on board, telling everybody how it's going to be cheaper, they're going to save money. Yeah, I did see a big difference in one thing though here. Even though it's not something that I absolutely wanted, I did put LED bulbs everywhere. I got to say that shows on your electric bill. Carlos, on simpler terms, what's your favorite stations in non-English speaking countries? Okay. One that I like, especially for their music, is Radio Amazonas in Brazil. Has some great music. Hi 61. I wonder if what would happen if I install long telescopic antenna on my external realistic 280. The antenna on it right now is so small. Yeah, but it depends. Sometimes it depends. It could work, but it could not work also. Doug Smith, there's a special field antenna for the Yaesu FTDX10, the ATAS 25, but I still can't figure out how to set it up. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. No, I'm not a big fan of Putin. Contrary to a lot of my friends, I'm not a big fan of Putin. And my favorite Quebecois recipe is called tourtière du lac Saint-Jean, which is which I make only because it's long and complicated to do, but usually make it only for Christmas. But it's probably my favorite Quebecois dish. The recipe I make comes from my grandma. Um, what else do we have? Sheila, here in Ontario, Canada, electricity is quite expensive, almost $300 a month on average. Yep, that's what I heard. That in Ontario, it's rather expensive. Um, Richard Edge says, same here in BC. Huge legacy of hydroelectric power from the 50s. Yeah, that's what's keeping our electricity down. But Mace, thanks for the explanation. Official Shortwave is a very good answer regarding the power and pricing. Um, Thomas Kitts, nice to have you here. Tom and Susie. And first snow in North Michigan. Youch. Youch. Mondo Rondo, here until we had a 150% raise. Youch, that's madness. Absolutely. Man, MDK2 says you should use your Alex Jones voice the next time you operate a club station. Well, this is Victor Echo 2 Alpha Quebec Papa calling any stations. And by the way, if you want to buy vitamin supplements, they're cheap. After Valley Crafter says in Massachusetts, they do nothing with the rivers. They get use to get use from them. Infrastructure bill will go to Boston, and further west you go, we will get less and less. Yeah. Dave Belisle says, and New Hampshire just got a 100% rate increase. This is crazy. The quadraphonic gospels. I think I heard one of your videos that you used to. No, I never. I lived in Montreal, Quebec forever. I went up and down the East Coast up to Florida a long time ago in the 90s, but I've never, and I've never, never did I bring a radio with me. It was purely just, going out and seeing stuff. Oh, the stations from local airports and signals. Well, first there's the planes are moving all the time, so if you're hearing planes, it's normal that it changes. But there are different phenomena that also can change the propagation of VHF signals, and so what else do we have? Well, Tony Magnin, nice to have you here. City of Cork, right on the south coast of Ireland. Have you tried out your grandma? Really not yet. I really need to. You know what? It completely, just because I don't have it in my face, it really got out of my mind. I have to take it out and put it on the desk here. That's going to remind me to use it for sure. The little that I did use it just to test was mostly seemed to do something, but I wasn't sure it was necessarily that great. But I don't know. I really need to test it before I can say anything. Uh, what else do we have? You don't need to put the MLE30 antenna very high, quadraphonic gospels. Magnetic loops like the MLE30 don't need to be very high to work well. Tony says, had a bad experience with the Sanjin 909X2 tuning the radio to BBC Radio 4 198 at first. After a minute of signal disappears and has jumped to, that is weird. You know what? I don't know. That is weird. It's weird that it jumps like that. It's so weird. Danny Shortwave, yeah. You know, coffee's too hot. Reminds me of that Seinfeld episode with Kramer. Coffee's too hot. It's supposed to be hot. You know how dumb? How dumb are people when you have to actually say on a coffee cup, hot? Really? It's coffee. What do you expect? I just can't get it. Ren Martin, yes, our power in New Hampshire went up a couple of months ago. It cost $60 before, now it's $100. What else do we have? Trying to go down a little faster, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about the. I want to talk about the FTDX10. Report this. If I miss out on saying hello to anyone or a question, Garrett, Brendan, you should be getting some stations like WRMI in Europe, even WWCR. A lot of people are reporting them from Europe. You should make sure that you don't have too much noise. Carlos, when I'm coming to pay visit in Europe, I'd love to. I'd love to. It's something that I would love. If I had more time on my hands, I would definitely do something like that. It is something that I would like to actually visit more of the world around me. What else do we have? Ferdinand. Nice to have you here, Ferdinand. We have Danny Shortwave. I enjoy the fact that your new radio has the decoder. Pretty cool to see. Yeah, I decoded. Actually, it's RTTY contest this morning when I woke up. I heard RTTY everywhere. I decoded the RTTY in the handbands. That was really cool. Take care, René Charbonnier. Fast low. Nice to have you here. Kamikaze 76. I think they have to put that on the coffee cup now because of that lady. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's because of it. But come on, it's just so dumb. I'm buying a coffee. Yeah, I'm expecting it to be cold so I don't burn myself. Thomas Kitts, our 24-year-old son, has an interest in starting out more on ham radios. Oh, that's cool. That is cool. So I'm down the chat now. Okay, guys, let's take a little look here at the new toy. So I'm actually on a. Let me just go here, and let's just the computer's here, radio's here. So famous FTDX10 transceiver here. Really, really cool transceiver. Like I said, what I like, the transmitter side, truly amazing. The antenna tuner seems to be way better and is able to match so much more my antenna. I do have the impression a lot more signals going out in the antenna. And, the contacts I've made are easier and they're really good. People are giving me some great audio reports. So it's really, really nice. It's a complex radio, so of course it's an SDR. It has a 3D look also for those that want to have the 3D. I haven't kind of really got turned on by that 3D look. I kind of like the standard look better, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to use it a little more. So of course you have spectrum. You can go up to 1,000 kilohertz of span in the display here. I usually put the span lower because I want to have more details on what I'm actually getting in the display. Of course, frequency, a digital made S meter, which is great though. I like the fact that it's an S meter, not a bar graph like the FT450. It definitely is much more interesting for me to have something that looks like an S meter. It has a lot to offer. Their menus are, plenty. It's the touchscreen, so you can go to the different menus and look at all the, different options. One of the things that I hate about it is what a lot of people are complaining about, which is the fact that sometimes in some menus, the menu dissipates or disappears a little too quickly. But overall, it's I've been having fun and playing a lot with the different settings. Like I said, you can decode stuff. So if you go on RTTY or PSK31, CW, you can decode. Also, I have the SD card in, so you can also record, which is also nice. So, for example, I can play my recordings. Here are the dates and the frequency. It gives you dates, time, the frequency of the recording, and what mode you were using. So, for example, last night I was listening to air traffic. I just choose it and I just play it. And that's the recording. That's the recording from last night. Getting used to it is not that difficult. I see a lot of people commenting of how they find that the transceiver is difficult to master. The settings are not necessarily natural to use. I haven't had too much problem with that because once you use it a little, you get the hang of it. You get the hang of the menus where they are and what to do. You also get the hang, and that's another thing that I have uh, definitely done a lot. There's a lot of stuff you do here that you can actually just do on the touchscreen directly. Same with the the frequency. You can of course choose band and go to the band you want, but I've actually mastered the fact that you can punch in the frequency you want to go to, and that's it. So all of that together. So if I want to go to WRMI 15770, here we go, and this is WRMI 770. The receive side, because here we're on the radio channel for reception. On the receive side, what I hate probably is the fact that there's no choice of filtering. So you're stuck on the 12 kilohertz filter. It tells you here the roofing filter is 12 kilohertz. You got no other choice. Um, and you can use amplifiers to actually amplify the signal, by the way. There's the digital noise reduction. Depending on the signal, sometimes it helps, sometimes it's not necessarily that great. It depends on the signal and the amount of noise around it. What I probably will complain on is all the jam packed buttons here, because you got the tuning, but you also have an outer ring for faster tuning. And that outer ring, because you're touching the side here, you also touching all the buttons. And that is an annoyance. I found myself in the last 3 days actually accidentally pushing buttons when I just didn't want to. I just wanted to tune around. So that is a comment I had seen on several reviews, but still, you get the hang of it as you use the radio. Let's check WWV on 25 megahertz. It's there. It's not super strong. Oh, so this is on the ML830. As you notice, I've removed the microphone to make sure I don't accidentally transmit, because it will immediately blow out my Striesberg Engineering multi-coupler and the ML830. So it's still a great radio, and I love it, and it sounds great even with the speaker on it. Does consume more power than the FT450 because it's technically kind of a computerized receiver. It's an hybrid radio. It's not totally SDR. It's part superhead standard radio with real filters, and you can actually add a Ford filter in it for CW. That pushes all of that into an SDR, in a digital way. A lot of features in here, so there's a lot of buttons, a lot of things in here. But overall, really been enjoying and been really doing a lot of contacts. I've in the past 3 days, I made tons of contacts easily, and I mean, I'm in a pileup with a station, and I don't even have a hard time getting through. On the FT450, it could take me half an hour to have a response from someone. With this radio, every single pileup that I tried, I don't think it took more than 5 minutes. It's like I'm getting through, and I'm getting through strong on the bands. So it definitely shows that the transceiver side, the transmitter side, is definitely nice, and the audio is definitely much better. I've listened myself on SDR while I was calling CQ, and boy, it's night and day in the quality of the audio. Sorry, guys. But overall, really am enjoying this receiver or transceiver. And of course, I'll have a review of the receive side here coming probably this week. I'll set it up with the ML830, compare the signals I hear here with, say, a Texan H501X or maybe my SDR, and to see, what I hear, what I don't hear. Do I hear something better on some frequency or not? And we'll be checking that out. But having a lot of fun with this radio, definitely. Definitely. Really cool to play with. So this is radar. Check it out here, upper sideband. Let's try 6501 for the yeah.
15 knots, diminishing to less than 10 knots, then becoming variable. Phase 365 feet. One day. Variable with 5 to 15 knots. Phase 365 feet.
So this is 6501, which is the NMN Chesapeake, Virginia weather station. When I started, I was on 27385 lower sideband. Seems that 11 meters and 10 meters is open. So really an amazing device. I need to, of course, learn even more about it, how to use it, and the different functionalities. One negative side also that I will add is that the manual is extremely simplified in a way that it would need to be twice the size. You know, the Yaesu FT450, you have a manual and you have an extended manual, one that actually gives you much more details on the extra features. On this, you have the manual and that's it. And this would need to have an extended manual. One of the reviewers were saying when you plug this on a PC, there is zero explanation anywhere of how to do this and how to, you know, have it controlled with your computer. So, they kind of made that manual not too big, probably because of cost, but it definitely would need to be improved. So I was thinking that as I will master the controls, I will probably on the VE2ZZI channel do a kind of an online visual manual where I'm going to explain the features in more detail and visually and using them and showing you how it works. I think a lot of people will like that, honestly. So FTDX10 is definitely a cool radio. It's not just cool looking. I just love it, and I love making the contacts with this week. Tonight I'm probably going to go into handbands, make more contacts to see what's out there. I definitely like that, and it's fun to use. So next steps will be to plug it with to make contacts in digital mode, stuff like that. I'm going to dabble on every single type of modes available and check it out. The receive side is from 30 kilohertz. So if I go to, for example, 00407, enter, you hear a non-directional beacon, 407 kilohertz. So from 30 kilohertz way down, and goes all the way up to 75 megahertz. So I believe I don't know if it's 75. Yeah, it goes up to 75 megahertz and receive. And of course, this is an HF transceiver that goes up to 6 meters. So from 160 to 6 meters for the transmit. The automatic tuner seems to be really good. It tunes my wire in every single band, and I seem to push out a lot of power on every single band. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. The automatic tuner seems to be real good in this radio. And it has memories, which means that if you've tuned 14200, for example, and you move to other bands, do other things, you come to 14200, you don't have to retune. It will remember that on 14200, this is how we tune the radio. So that's the quick look of the FTDX10 that I'm very, very happy to have as a transceiver now. So, God, pretty cool. I was just gonna say. Okay, let's go down the chat here. Down the chat here. Okay, let's go down. Oh, the firewall's not there because my projector is in another room, but we'll put it back fast load. David White just got my SDR. The antenna cable SMA connectors don't seem to touch the inner connector or the threaded shield well. Are there two sizes for maybe higher frequencies? What do you think is wrong? Now check your connector. Maybe you're not screwing it enough. This is one thing that, what the hell happened? My screen just went blank. What happens is that you have, it's easy not to screw the SMA connector enough to go fully in. I've had that with a couple of the SMA connectors. You kind of have a hard time, depending on the cable that you have. Sometimes it seems the threads might not be perfect. So when you start screwing in, it's kind of a little harder. And I think that's your problem. There's no an SMA connector is an SMA connector. There's no sizes. It's either a male or female, and that's it. I think it's either the cable you have is a problem, or you have not screwed it in far enough. That could easily happen because it's small, and sometimes you have the impression that you're all in, but you're actually not. You still have a little way to go. Any recommendations for shortwave radio that gets NOAA? Well, the only one that really, for a radio that's decent, the only one that is really okay is the C Crane Skywave SSB or the the C Crane Skywave. But for the rest, they're all they're emergency radios, and they're rather crappy on shortwave. Like WX50, it is a beauty. And has a lot of functions, absolutely. Absolutely. J Projects, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Let's go check it out. WF7i Homebrew. Anyone want to have any idea why these SDR ham rigs like the Yaesu and Kenwood don't provide all the digital modes like FLDG, only a small subset? Yeah, sometimes it's because they need licensing agreements with some of the modes. And sometimes it's just that they don't, you know, um, when we look like this radio, it would definitely be possible to have everything in, you know, weather facts decoding, all of it. I think they just aren't working necessarily all the time to have everything. They put the most popular, or they do things like that because one of the things that they probably say is, well, anyways, they're all going to use a computer to control, and they're going to use their favorite software. Hey, John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Yep, digital needle is much better than a bar graph. The bar graph I didn't like on the FT450, and it didn't seem to be very accurate either. It never really showed. My FT450, what made me buy this a little faster than I wanted is that the FT450, there was a station in Barbados last week, and he was on 15 meters, and I could hear him really well. And the FT450 has a glitch on the one that I have has a glitch. I first wondered why it was doing it. I wondered if was doing something wrong, but after several use, I noticed that it does it all the time after a certain amount of time. So I don't know if it's temperature related when the receiver inside or the transceiver inside gets a little warmer, and there's expansion going on and so on, and maybe some contact's not right, or it's just maybe a chip that's going berserk. The FT450, when turned on cold, will work fine on all bands for about an hour and a half, roughly an hour and a half. After an hour and a half, everything above 17 meters, 18 megahertz, 21 megahertz, 24 megahertz, 28 megahertz, when I key up, instead of like being in single sideband, when I key up, the power goes with the voice. that when you're talking, it maxes to full power and it's all distortion. The only thing you get out is distortion. So there's something going on in that radio. And so what happened is last week I wanted to contact that Barbados station. And again, I think it was on Saturday when I actually took the decision to buy it. I think it was Saturday morning, last Saturday morning. I tried to contact a station on 10. And the time that it took me to try to contact it, it went berserk again. And that made me so mad that I was like, okay, I have my ham license. I want to do contacts. I want to do stuff. I want something that works good. So I thought, okay, get yourself a good transceiver. Get yourself something new that is going to work really nice and really good out of the box. And and that FD450 maybe Fastload will take a look at it and see what he can do. Um, it definitely has a problem after about an hour and a half. Doesn't happen right away. You could be making contacts on 15 meters for an hour. Everything's right, everything's fine. Then suddenly starts doing that. And once it does it, forget it. The only way to stop is to shut it down, wait a few hours. So that made me kind of, take the decision to buy this a little faster. Man Max, I wanted to see I wouldn't want to see you accidentally keying up that radio when connected to the coupler in MLA30. Nope. 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 Not a good idea. Not a good idea. What else do we have? Yeah, it's the problem is it's not fully SDR from A to Z, because it would be fully SDR, then there'll be you'd have the filtering options of the software in there that would be working in. So yep, HF and 6 meters, Bobby Burgess. What else do we have? It's going to go down. Okay, here we go. John Beckham purchased a Kato KH 345 AM FM shortwave radio and MP3, 1995. And surprisingly, the shortwave bands are relatively sensitive for its low cost. Yeah, it's like the ones that I purchased, the D368 and so on. Works okay, you know. Jerry, what modes have you tried on the new Yaesu? Well, just for transmitting, it was just a single sideband. I haven't tried anything else. For the transmit side. For the receive side, I've decoded some digital modes in the radio itself and stuff like that. So, I've been making contacts, only voice contacts for now. Andrew, good night. Nope, the filters are there's 3 filters in it that are real filters, because the radio is an hybrid radio. It's a real radio. Then all gets digital in the SDR part. So the filters are the ones that are, real electronic filters. So you can't configure electronic filters. They're the size they are. And you got 3 of them stock with the radio. You've got a 500, you've got a 3 kilohertz, and you've got a 12 kilohertz. The only other thing you can actually play with after that is play with the bandwidth, which is playing with an audio bandwidth, not the actual bandwidth of the filters. Chad Stank, nice to have you here from Kentucky. What else do we have? Take care, Ricky. So John Beckham, yep, my new Yaesu transceiver, the FTDX10. Greg, back in the 80s and 90s, shortwave receivers did not have airband. Yeah, there were a couple that I remember, but that was not something you'd have. Usually, people would wanted airband. Wanted just purchased a scanner radio. Hey, David in Barcelona, Spain. Nice to have you on board, EA3IEK. And thank you for the congrats. Maybe you will be on the air and make a contact soon. Kamikaze 76 getting 25 megahertz S7 and 20 at S9 in West Michigan. Yeah, that's another thing. The SMA connector center pin could be broken on the cable. It's easy to also, put it in and going a little too fast, and then you just bend the center pin in the connector. Raymond Martin, New York QSO party is still on, especially 40 meters until 10 p.m. from New Hampshire with Northeastern, Midwest, and Canadian amateurs. Cool. WSRU says, is there not a way to shape the passband width at all? Or is that only available on AM? There's nothing you can do. On SSB, you can shape it, but it's very limited. And honestly, for a $2,000 radio, I was surprised at the limits that it has for that. But it doesn't, I don't mind it too much. Quadraphonic Gospels, is it worth buying used receivers? Personally, I don't think so. Fast load, cracked solder. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Takes about an hour and a half before it actually starts doing it. But once it does it, forget it. You're not gonna be on 10 meters. But it doesn't do it 20 meters or below. So if I'm 20 meters or 80 meters, 40 meters, it always works perfectly. So it's probably has to do with a part of the circuit that deals with the higher frequencies. How radio friendly is your prime minister? Well, he's not very. It's not very. There's no really radio talk much here. Man Max, so I take that while it's DSP based, it has more emphasis on the hybrid standard transceiver aspect than an SDR. Yeah. It's a lot of all of it is much more standard radio, standard superhead radio. It was one of the comments when I was trying to think which one I should buy. One of the reviewers that has both the 7300 and the this one, the FTDX10, was talking how because the 7300 is fully SDR all the way, and that in some aspects it was an advantage for some things. But then again, once again, when we say that radios are no perfect radios, he was saying that on some other aspects, the FTDX10 was better. So it all depends what you do and how you're going to use, but it's pretty great, pretty great. The heat doesn't affect reception at all. The weather doesn't affect reception except thunderstorms, of course. But the best tip that I can give you is to learn the bands, which bands are international broadcast bands, and depending on what you want to listen to, the other bands also, and kind of think about the fact that stations tend to be better around late afternoon, evening, night, early morning, and not necessarily that great in midday very often. So I'm sure we can, David, because with the signals that I've been getting, I got two stations from Portugal. I did get one from Spain the other day. I got Cyprus. I got Italy. Italy was so funny because there was an Italian station, and here we have a Italian community that is um, that is just gonna do this. Sorry guys for a second. So the guy starts to talk to me in um, in French. So I get that Italian station. It's pretty late at night too, and starts to talk to me in French because he sees my Curacet page and sees my name. And it ends up that he is his family is uh, lives in Saint Leonard, which is really close to where I live here. And it's just so funny because he talks to me in French. And then he had all his friends over in Italy. So he said, okay, hang in there. I've got three of my friends that want to talk to you. So one after the other, I had a contact with each of the other stations. So I had four Italy in, you know, 10 minutes. But it was a lot of fun. And the guys were really, really funny too. So we talked a little bit and had, we had conversations. And there's that guy in Cyprus, which gave me a 5.9 plus. Was very, very, he wanted to talk. It was like we were talking all sorts of things, and I was talking about a new radio and everything. It was a lot of fun, anyways. So it's pretty cool. 11 radios. I listen to Sumer Radio all the time. The best AM tune-ins here in the USA and Illinois, CFZM 740. Quadraphonic Gospels. What kind of stations are you able to get? So far, I keep getting the same stations, Cuba and some religious stations. I have an MLA 30 on its way. Yeah, you're probably going to get more with that because I listen to Voice of America, the BBC. I listen to Radio Romania. I discover I have tons of stations. There's a radio. I can listen to Radio France sometimes. You're a little close in Miami. I don't know how well you can get anything from WRMI. Here, WRMI gives great relays like Radio Slovakia, Radio Prague, and there's the all sorts of shows of interest and radio, the Voice of Mongolia. There's a lot of stuff. You got to take the time. John Santucci, yes, you can. There's a DVI plug in the back of the Yaesu. You can plug in a big screen to have that screen on the bigger screen for easy viewing. Absolutely. So WSI, remember, interesting show on the filtering. I would have thought that there were some on the IF DSP features to shape the passband beyond that the hardware filters. Yeah, it's kind of very curious the way that it's done. It's very limited in what you have as the control for the filtering. And I mean, you can play a little bit with the SSB, but on AM, there's nothing you can do. There's no option at all to play with anything. You're stuck at 12 and be happy. So it's this shows one thing is that this transceiver has been thought of and designed by ham for ham radio, not for shortwave listening in general. Jazz Tank. And good night, my friend. 11 radios. My PL660 is my shortwave DXer, and it finds stations. And I use the Texan H501 to listen afterwards. What else do we have? A Nassar says, do HF broadcast stations transmit with omni antennas or several directional antennas in order to cover large areas? Most stations have big rotatable curtain array antennas or antennas that are already positioned for target areas. So most of the big stations will target areas directly. Omnidirectional is used mostly by the small local stations. Like here in Canada, we got two of them. There's CFRX in Toronto and 6070. That one is much more omnidirectional. But big stations like the BBC and Radio Romania have antennas that actually are beamed to the target audience. Levin Radios found out we're brothers. I got 10% French on my DNA report. Billy No Mates. Italians on 80 and 40 are allowed up to 1 kilowatt of transmit power. They tend to swamp out hams. Yeah, we hear a lot of Italian stations, definitely. Is it possible to combine two MLA30s to make it sphere-shaped and get reception from all directions? You'll get reception from all directions. Don't be fooled by the MLA30's directional pattern. Shortwave signals, the way that they propagate from long distance, the MLA30 doesn't do much when you rotate it. You won't see much of a difference. What you want to do with the MLA30 is simply put it in the position where it gets the least amount of noise possible, and then you leave it like that. That's all. The only real directional is on something close or like medium wave stations. Greetings from Germany, a Nassar. Oh yeah, the sound on the FTDX10 is sounds. It's great. It's the audio is really, really great. What else do we have? David says, in my mind, I'm not exactly a powerhouse at 100 watts. Antennas are in inverted V bazooka dipole. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that we could in good conditions make a contact easily. I mean, look, the I got 100 watts in an end-fed antenna, which is a wire, and man, I'm amazed at all the distance and how easy I make the contact. So I think that we have a good shot if you try it, for sure. Yeah, with the higher solar activity, the E skip, it's actually standard skip. It's not even E skip, because with the high solar activity, it's a standard skip now, and it is like in the 80s. It's like that every day. This week it was like that every day, and 10 meters was open every day. Sheila, do two MLA30s make an MLA60? Hey, Glenn, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. KB9IN. Take care, TV Ostrowski. VA3JPX, nice to have you here. Mike WX50, I think I may be cousin to Joe too. My DNA report shows I have French on my pattern line. Jim F, nice to have you on board. Levin Radio started out with a Sinky antenna, which worked okay, but the MLA30 loop just works amazing compared to other antennas. It's really, 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 really the problem of the noise, because I have made a lot of contacts and I've tuned the shortwave bands a lot on the FTDX10, and I've noticed one thing, because I've had, while I was operating, sometimes when I was actually listening, I was listening with the FTDX10 and on the end-fed antenna, and I was looking at the same signals, but getting them here on the my SDR or on a portable with the MLA30 out front. And one of the things that I noticed is that above 20 megahertz, everything sounded better on the FTDX10 with the end fed, which tends me to believe not that, because, there's different things going to happen. Maybe the receiver is more sensitive or better, but I think it has more to do with the antenna itself. The wire antenna above 20 is better at receiving signals than my MLA30. So when I would have, for example, 25 megahertz time signal from WWV, it was stronger on the FTDX10 than it was on the here in my office with the MLA30 out in front. Where it gets balanced out is when I go down the bands, because that's where I'm getting more and more noise on the bands. The lower I go in frequency, the more noise I get with the wire antenna. And so that kind of cancels out, or even the MLA30 might be better sometimes. An example of that, I was trying the standard utility signals that I hear all the time, 5450 Royal Air Force Volmet in the UK, 5505 Shannon in Ireland, and they were all better with the MLA30 on all of my radios here than they were on the FTDX10, and it was purely a question of noise, probably. It's simply because the wire in the back and the lower frequencies has much more noise, and that was washing out the signals. But overall, I was surprised. I was surprised that if I go above 10 megahertz, not I've got not it's not bad at all on that end-fed antenna, actually. So, anyways, the real test needs to be done with the same antenna. So what I'm going to do this week, in the coming week when I have time, is set up the FTDX10 here on the MLA30 and set up the FTDX10 with a portable or with one of my SDRs. Compare, and I'll be making videos, of course, and compare which one does receive better. Is one better than the other? Is the FTDX10 a better radio, a better receiver than a Texan H501X? Do you see a difference? Is there something that makes it a difference? That's going to be the test this week with the same antenna, because it has to be done with exactly the same antenna if you want to really know if a radio is better than another on receive. So that's coming out this week. Slowly, I'm going to be testing that out. It's going to be fun to compare these radios. I don't expect, because my expectations on the receive side, I don't expect the FTDX10 to clearly outperform any of the good radios I've got. I expect it to be as good and maybe a little better with some of the features that you can add in or kick in, and then like the digital noise reduction, stuff like that. Try that out. There are features that might help me get that edge for a better receive, but I don't expect that FTDX10 to blow away, for example, my SDR play. I expect that on the same antenna, it'll perform very closely on the bands. So it's going to be a test to see. I have no idea. And one of the reviewers, which had the one that had both the ICOM IC 7300 and Yaesu FTDX10, what he was saying is, radios have reached a level where that radio doesn't get more than this radio. It's the sensitivity is really pretty much on par on everything. It's really not there anymore where you're gonna notice if a radio is better than another. There's other things that will get one radio and make that radio a favorite or a better radio than another. But overall, as he was saying, which is pretty much my way of thinking, is they're all reached a maximum point, pretty much. So it's going to be interesting to test out and see the difference. Thank you for the tip, Francis. David says, by the way, in my Q2H in Barcelona, I always get strong signals from Italian hams, almost more so than from other EA stations. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of Italy on the bands, definitely. RG80 Dakota, if I had an MLE30, I don't know where I would be able to get it installed or put up somewhere. Richard Edge, I have 100 transceiver connected to a terminated folded dipole in the attic and made a 10-meter contact to ham in a Vanucuba. From they must probably continue somewhere. Really no mates. My only 30 is mounted at head height on the garden fence, and same for the U-loop as well. John Beckham, appears the MLA30 is a benchmark antenna for quality shortwave listening. Yep, and noise levels. And the noise levels, that is the 11 radios. My MLA30 is about 4 years old, I believe. It's one of the first white light LED units, still glowing and still rocking the world. Cool. Carlos, is there any Inuit service? Not really. We used to have the Northern Quebec Radio Canada Northern Quebec service, which had that. But for the rest, nope. Canada's shortwave is now, utilities and some utilities and some low-powered station on the 6 megahertz, like the one on 6030 in Alberta, and the other one in the CFRX station on 6070 in Toronto. Quadraphonic gospels. Do trees affect reception? I have a huge mango tree in my yard. Not on shortwave. Wouldn't change much. The trees don't really affect much of the shortwave listening. The what is more of a problem would be to just make sure that when it's windy, that the MLA30 doesn't get hit by a tree branch. But for the rest, it's not going to change much being closer away from the tree. Yep, the MLA30 can be installed permanently outside. Mine has been there for 3 years now? At least 3 years, if not 4. It's been there for a while now, and been hit by all the harshness of the Canadian winters. Works great. What else do we have? Christian Marcoux, fais attention à toi. Non, je ne serai pas au Zoom demain car je dois aller visiter mon ami à l'hôpital. Donc, je ne serai pas au Zoom demain, Christian, malheureusement. If you are CIDX member, remember, guys, that there's a Zoom meeting tomorrow. So you guys could show up and say hi to everybody. Lemon Radio's mine has been mounted inside of plastic housing and mounted to a PVC crossed by plastic tie bands. Ferdinand, cool. Take care. Stay safe, and thank you for the good. Matt got most of the Halloween stuff up. Greg, what's the brand name of the end-fed antenna? Oh, it's not even branded. It came in a bag, and it was kind of, it seems to be almost you know, like a handmade, basically. Um, it didn't it was anonymous when I got it. It came with the unun, the unbalance transformer, and with the connectors, and not even any instructions of what the hell do you do with this now. It was just like, this is the way it is. How do you do this? So I actually looked at I looked online a little bit on some of, because it had two screws and the connector, and I wondered, okay, which one is which? Where do I, the wire goes on which of the two screws, and so on. So I looked online with how the other end fed were connected, and did the same. Thanks, Quadraphonic Gospels, for the tip. Keegan the Xter, my dad has two W6 LVP loops, one outdoors with the loop cabled inside, a PVC pipe of his own, and indoors. And I have my own W6 LVP loop indoors. Cool. He used his first W6 LVP on his ICOM IC706 and later IC7300. I used my W6 LVP loop with my Eton Gredig satellite. Richard Edge, it entered too soon. It was from the British Columbia coast, even with a compromised WR of 2.1 to 1. Pretty cool. Chris G7VEO says Italian ham band plan says their max is 500 watts. That's interesting. Loving radios. What do you think? What radio show do you think performs the best? Eton Elite SSB or Gredig G5? Gredig G5 is great. So I would think that that the performance is of the G5 is. I've always loved my G5. I haven't taken it out for a while. I need to find it in my box of radios. Francis, more amazing. Jill, how time flies. Still remember you showing your YouTube videos on the ICOM ICR 8500 many moons ago, and now you're doing the same with your new Yaesu. Yep. Fast low, 10 meters open to Australia. Yeah, usually at this time. This is the time, 20, 21, 22. It's a time 15 and 10. It's a time to 20, 15, and 10. Time to, and of course, 17 and 12. Time to try for those Asians or Australia. I've seen a lot of Japanese stations reported this week. And so that is the time. Pretty much daytime path from there to here right now. Someday when you get bored, Joe, will you make a radio battle of the Elite and the G5? Yeah, I'm going to check that out. Yeah. It's mostly a question of having time. My biggest problem is having time to do the videos right now. If you notice, there were a few days I didn't do much before the transceiver because I was just, with hospital visits, taking care of the tech channel and all the other stuff I had to do. What else do we have? Sergeant Rock, great Churchill, good copy. Into Hawaii. And have fun with the FTDX10. Great toy. Yep, absolutely. Take care, my friend. It's nice to have you here. Greg, yep, MLA30. If it's noisy, because that's the thing about the MLA30. And as I was saying, my end fed seems to be better on some bands. And what happens is that you if you don't have a lot of noise around, that um, if you don't have a lot of noise around, that MLA30 is not necessarily the best buy. You can put up a wire antenna if you can, and you have a great antenna. So but if it's very noisy where you are, the MLA30 definitely is going to be your lifesaver, probably, because you'll be able to hear stuff that you won't hear normally. Quadraphonic Gospels, MLA30 for $30 on eBay. Amazon has it for $50. Yeah, it varies in price depending on the seller. Anywhere between, like $30 to $40 is just right. David, besides the loop to receive and to modulate DC Quam AM stereo, I use my AirSpy HF Plus Discovery ZR, as well as the Sodira software. Huh. Interesting. And Sodira SDR. Hey, it's raining outside. I'm hearing rain. Oh, well. I'm hearing rain. Okay. So anyways, there are differences depending on the antennas you use and all of that. Definitely. So it's I'm at the end of the chat, Rob. So it's all interesting to see the differences when you start looking at all of it, and the performance and everything. Bill, really been enjoying the Yaesu videos, PSK, and the Gander vids were very interesting. That Gander, that was very interesting. It was very late when I tuned the Gander airport on that video that I posted today. It was about 2 a.m., 2 in the morning here. It was about 06 UTC. And at first I didn't do the video at first because there's a lot of it missing. The air traffic controller, she seemed to be kind of stressed out and trying to contact a couple of planes. At first I started listening because there was one plane that was never replying back and not sending data. And I thought, for a moment, and she seemed to really, really emphasize, hey, you got to answer me back. For a moment, I was like, wow, am I in the middle of witnessing on the radio of some plane trouble over the Atlantic Ocean? And then the station finally came back. But it seemed like, she was like pushing all the other planes that were coming and saying, hang on, guys, hang on. I need to do this first. I need to have the contact first with that plane. And it made it very interesting listening. What you hear there is kind of the tail end of when it got quiet in the end. But I had been listening for at least 20 minutes before I kind of took my phone and decided to start making the video. It was really, really active. It was crazy. And I was wondering because she would have had a hard time with a lot of the planes. She were constantly telling them, do not go to 34 or something. Come here to 5616. You got to be on 5616. And I noticed that at the time I was listening, my phone had a report that there was a minor geomagnetic storm possibly in progress. And I was wondering if she just had a hard time getting some of the planes because the propagation conditions are changing and maybe some of them were not making it to Gander. But it was very interesting listening. At first I was like, whoa, is something bad happening right now? I would have stayed there. If there would have been some kind of emergency or a plane, I would have stayed there, and I would have probably not only stayed there, I would have just kept the video rolling and comment at the same time. And it's not something you want to witness or be, that you don't want it to happen. But someday, and I'm sure in some of the tragedies that happened, the airline tragedies, there are some radio listeners out there that witnessed that happen, over radio. It's like that video that I have online from a few years ago when I was at the expedition, and suddenly I hear air traffic control on the 17 megahertz frequency, and they're having a passenger that's having a heart attack on board the plane, and they're actually doing the phone patch to um, they're doing the phone patch to a doctor so that he can give instructions on what to do, and then wondering, should we go to another airport, what should we do actually. It's very, very, you're in the middle of real life events through radio. It's kind of interesting. um Take care, Living Radios. Always nice to have you on board. Francis Moore doing a good job, Joe. Carrying a full-time deal for you, as it for me. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. You need a break from time to time. So pretty. So the RSDR isn't as sophisticated as, say, SDR Sharp or SDR Uno, but it does have CQAM capabilities. So that's the software I use whenever I want to listen to stereo AM. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Kind of interesting. One of the things I'll do tonight on the Yaesu FTDX10 is to maybe chase pirates a little bit and see what's on there. I'm gonna for those that were asking, a lot of people were asking about the me selling. Are you selling or give it, the FT450 and all of that? No, I want to keep it. I want to keep it for two reasons. I want to keep it. It's a radio. It's part of the radios, so it's going to be part of the radio collection. But also, anything ever happens, I'm not out of a the of the ham stuff. I still have something to use. Two broke Tim. Yeah, well, a lot of electric vehicles. The noise generated by them is so high that they don't include radios that have AM. And well, if you don't hear AM, there's a good chance you won't hear much shortwave either. Not all electric vehicles, but a lot. There's a lot of manufacturers that aren't. I guess the shielding the electric car for that would probably be too costly. And so all you got is, FM and satellite capabilities, which is much less affected. R. Michael Langer. Richard Edge VE7RXE. Have to go. Need to go out and water the garden. Never thought I'd be saying this here on Canada's normally wet West Coast, but can you send some of the rain out here, Michelle? Have a great weekend. Well, yeah, that definitely is something we don't hear often, that you guys out west and in the British Columbia area don't have enough rain. It's crazy. So, hey guys, I'm going to say goodbye for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show today, and a quick look at the Yaesu FTDX10. I'll be making a review of the receive side of the receiver, probably this week at some point, and I'll be going to do some transmit and some transceiver videos on the VE2ZZI channel. So this is gonna be cool. Mickey Delmage just got TI5 SD on 28570. Wonder if I hear it here. Let's just check it out. 2587. 87? Is that? No, 570, sorry. 257. I'm not hearing anything on the MLA30. I'll have to check it out on this on the end-fed antenna, see if I hear it on the east. So happy to be here, guys. I will be back next Saturday at 20 hours UTC. And now I'm going to go eat my General Tao chicken with fried rice that I have waiting for me in the fridge. So take care, guys. It was a lot of fun to be here, as usual. And see you next Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. Bye-bye. Love you all.